Washington, D.C., July 2026. The nation's capital had seen presidents, dignitaries, and world leaders grace its streets. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared the city for what was about to happen. The announcement came quietly. Alex Eala was arriving. The 21-year-old Filipina who had conquered Wimbledon's center court, who had dethroned Iga Swiatek, who had climbed to world number 28, who had become the first Filipino to reach the fourth round of a Grand Slam. She was coming to Washington. But this wasn't just an arrival. This was a royal procession. Fans gathered at the airport. Philippine flags waved in the breeze. Chants of Alex, Alex, Alex echoed through the terminals. The Filipino community in Washington had mobilized. They had waited for hours. They had come from Maryland, from Virginia, from all across the East Coast. And when she stepped through those doors, dressed in a glamorous white ensemble that would later make headlines in Metro magazine, the crowd erupted. Not just with cheers, with tears, with the kind of raw emotion that only a nation's hero can inspire. The city was left speechless, not because a tennis player had arrived, but because of what her arrival represented. A young woman from the Philippines, a country that had never produced a Grand Slam champion, had become the biggest draw in women's tennis. And Washington was the first stop on her journey to conquer America. The U.S. Open build-up had begun, and Alex Eala's royal arrival had stunned the entire city. Welcome to RallyVerse. The plane touched down at Dulles International Airport on July 20th, 2026. Eala had just completed a whirlwind week in Manila, a presidential citation at Malacanang Palace, a sold-out fan meet at Glorieta Activity Center where hundreds had lined up for hours, and emotional farewells with a nation that had embraced her as its own. The scene at the airport was unlike anything Washington had ever seen. Hundreds of Filipino Americans had gathered. Philippine flags of every size waved in the arrival hall. Hand-painted banners with messages like Alex, you are our pride, and Laban Lang, Alex, decorated the terminal. Children clutched tennis balls and markers, hoping for an autograph. Elderly fans sat on folding chairs, refusing to leave until they had seen her. When Eala stepped through the doors, the crowd exploded. Not just with cheers, with tears, with the kind of raw emotion that only a nation's hero can inspire. She was dressed in an elegant white ensemble that would later draw praise from none other than Coco Gauff and Eva Liss, who commented gorgeous and just died on her Instagram post. The fashion statement was unmistakable. This was not just a tennis player arriving for a tournament. This was a global icon making her entrance. Maraming Salamat SA Pagtanggap SA Akin Mga Kababayan, she later wrote on Instagram. Each and every one of your stories has touched me on a profound level. I leave with a refreshed memory of what I carry when I'm out there playing tennis. And wow, is it a privilege to be part of something bigger than myself. Never been prouder to represent home. The Filipino community in Washington had been waiting for this moment. They had followed her journey from the cracked courts of Quezon City to the pristine lawns of Wimbledon. They had stayed up until midnight to watch her matches. They had organized watch parties across the East Coast. And now, they were finally seeing her in person. The scene at the airport was a testament to the Eala mania that had swept the globe. Former U.S. Open champion Andy Roddick had described it perfectly. Eala mania is fun. Imagine, wherever you live, whatever the biggest venue is closest to you, imagine having watch parties for a fourth-round match at Wimbledon and having no room. I am here for Eala mania. It's great for tennis. Roddick had also emphasized that Eala's rise was more than just a story. Listen, it was a fun story when she broke out in Miami. We wanted more of it. But she's top 30, beating higher-ranked players at majors. So it went from a fun story to a very real story and a phenomenon. That phenomenon had now arrived in Washington. The royal arrival was just the beginning, because Eala wasn't just in Washington for sightseeing. She was here to compete in the Mubadala DC Open, a WTA 500 tournament running from July 25th to August 2nd at the William H.G. Fitzgerald Tennis Center. And she wasn't competing alone. The tournament had announced the return of the Dream Team. Eala would be reuniting with Venus Williams, the 23-time Grand Slam champion and former world number one, in the doubles event. The announcement had sent shockwaves through the tennis world. Dream Team. Venus Williams, Alex Eala are locked in for doubles in D.C. The Mubadala DC Open posted on social media. It was a partnership that had already shown promise. The two had teamed up for the first time at the Bad Homburg Open in Germany last month, reaching the quarterfinals before bowing out to Olivia Nichols and Teresa Mihalikova, 6-3, 6-2. But the chemistry was undeniable. It was an incredible experience for me, Eala said of playing alongside Williams. Venus has such a special work ethic and such a special mindset. And for who she is so down to earth. So I just took that week to absorb everything I could absorb and learn from her. Williams, 46, had returned the compliment, describing Eala as the best partner. The two had bonded over their shared love for the game and their determination to compete at the highest level. The Mubadala DC Open doubles draw would feature 18 Grand Slam doubles and mixed doubles champions across both the ADP and WTA tours. But the Dream Team was the headline act. Fans were already lining up for tickets. For Eala, the partnership was about more than just winning matches. It was about learning from one of the greatest players in history. I took that week to absorb everything I could absorb and learn from her, she said. The Washington tournament would be Eala's first competitive action since Wimbledon. She was entering the singles main draw as one of the top seeds, and the expectations were higher than ever. Washington had never seen anything like it. The Filipino community in the DMV area, Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia had mobilized like never before. They came from all across the East Coast to see their hero. They wore Philippine flags, brought homemade banners, and cheered with a passion that stunned even the veteran tennis journalists. The media coverage was overwhelming. Local news stations covered the arrival. National outlets picked up the story. Eala arrives in D.C. for Mubadala DC Open was the headline. But the story wasn't just about tennis. It was about representation. It was about seeing someone who looked like them, who came from the same place, who had achieved the impossible. The iconic Philippine star even had a glamour shoot with Metro magazine, where she spoke about her journey and her fashion choices. The shoot drew praise from tennis stars like Coco Gauff, who commented gorgeous, and Eva Liss, who wrote just died. The post was also liked by Chris Eubanks and Victoria Mboko. But Eala's focus was on tennis. In an interview with the star, she had laid out her approach to the U.S. Open build-up. I don't have a specific round in the U.S. Open that I say, oh, Kaling and Kong Abu Tenido. The way I approach tournaments, I'm match by match, round by round. I do want to get as far as I possibly can. Of course, the ultimate goal is to win, right? But I take it round by round. The city of Washington had embraced her. The fans had welcomed her. And the tennis world was watching. To 23. And finally, the year's final Grand Slam. The U.S. Open from August 30th to September 13th in Flushing Meadows, New York. Eala was officially listed as a direct entry for the U.S. Open, currently ranked number 29 in the confirmed list. She will be seeded for the first time at a Grand Slam. The expectations were higher than ever. I do want to get as far as I possibly can, she had said. Of course, the ultimate goal is to win, right? The schedule was relentless. The pressure was immense. But Eala had already proven that she could handle it. She had beaten Grand Slam champions. She had conquered center court. She had become the biggest draw in women's tennis. And now, she was about to take on America. The royal arrival in Washington was more than just a media event. It was a statement, a declaration, a reminder that Alex Eala was no longer just a tennis player from the Philippines. She was a global icon, from the cracked courts of Quezon City to world number 28. From being a 13-year-old girl alone in Spain to a national hero celebrated by presidents and adored by millions. From being told she couldn't do it to standing on the brink of Grand Slam glory. Eala's journey had already inspired an entire generation. Andy Roddick had captured it perfectly. I don't want to hear any of that be like, I don't care, stop talking. No, this Isa movement, she is single-handedly creating a movement of a sect of tennis fandom that largely didn't exist a couple of years ago. Thank you. The royal arrival in Washington was proof that the movement was growing. The Filipino community had shown up in force. The media had taken notice. And the tennis world had been left speechless. But for Eala, the work was just beginning. The hard-court swing awaited. The U.S. Open loomed. And the next chapter of her historic journey was about to be written. Laban lang. Always. And remember, on RallyVerse, we bring you the stories that define the sport. The drama, the arrivals, the moments that change everything. Stay tuned for more.